So the clients, Richard and Natalie, approached us in 2014 and they'd bought an existing house on this plot of land. It was a 1950s house. It was nothing special and it was a bit too small for them. So their brief to us was very much to enlarge the house to create 7 bedrooms. So that would include bedrooms for their 4 children, but also for lots of visitors that they have that come from overseas and maybe want to stay for a week or two. So the client really had quite a clear brief in terms of the accommodation they needed and roughly where they wanted it to be. And for us it was very much a case of turning that brief into the piece of architecture and creating a better relationship between the house and the garden. There's a lot of mature trees and a large garden, and I really wanted to be able to have a space that they could entertain that would open out onto the garden in the summer. A key aspect of the design was that they wanted to have all the habitable rooms, the living rooms and the bedrooms on the side facing the garden. And so on this side, which is actually the west side, this was the space that would be the circulation space. They wanted to be this triple height space, and then also service rooms such as bathrooms, storage, utility rooms and that sort of thing. And that idea really goes all through the house, so that you have a polished concrete floor on the side of the house, which is what I call the service side, and then you have on the habitable room side more of the timber finishes and more of that kind of warm but less durable but more homely kind of materials. So the house is laid out very much in the traditional sense that you have the living room, the kitchens, the study, etc. on the ground floor. So on the first floor there were 6 bedrooms with 3 bathrooms, and then the master suite for Richard and Natalie, including a gym and a separate bathroom, occupies the whole of the 4th floor. So that runs from one end to the other to about 40 metres. It's a very long, thin space, but has excellent views over the garden. The idea for the cladding of the house was that we would use a Siberian larch, which we felt responded well to the setting, very landscape setting with mature trees. And in certain places we brought that material inside the building to blur the boundary between inside and outside. We also used an American white oak internally, because it's a kind of slightly softer and warmer material than the larch, but the two go very well together, and that's then balanced by areas of white plaster on the inside and white render on the outside. So there's really a kind of play between those two materials. In the living room downstairs, one of the key aspects was to open that up to the garden as much as possible. So we designed it in a way that there were 2 ceiling heights in there, a lower one that gives a slightly more homely area, and then a higher area where it opens up onto the garden. And that's fully glazed, with a glazed corner as well, so when they slide open the windows completely in the summer, it's pretty much seamless between inside and outside. Another key part of the design was the wine store. Richard collects wine, and it was important that was a key part of the house. So we placed it next to the living room, and in the design of it, we curved it round. It's the only curve in the building, actually, and it was a way of that wine store being introduced to the living room space, but without destroying the proportions of that space. And I think it works very well. It's a softer element. Although the brief was quite clear from the client and what they gave us, it did need a lot of careful thought in actually turning that into a building and into a piece of architecture that really works. And I think really through our selection of materials and the way we arrange the spaces, I think we've done that very well, and I think it really works for the family.
It started off as what we thought was going to be a relatively small renovation job, change some windows and perhaps put an extension on and that type of thing, and then it grew legs and the legs got longer and longer. And at that point we made contact with Ben Stagg, and we wanted somewhere that had lots of space for the family to play in, and also to use the garden really. And then something which dawned on us as we got to understand the house as it was that one of the best spaces was what was then the 2nd floor, which was a very small attic. And again, Ben Stagg had pointed out what potential that had to create a second floor and perhaps some bedroom space. And so we had all of these ideas together, and it was Ben sort of put them into three parts really, which was the main living space and trying to incorporate the garden. And the light always meant that it was going to lean that way because we had the east and the south. The guest area, which was sort of project number 2, to incorporate the garage, and then the third area, which was Natalie and our master bedroom, which was going to be upstairs. And that's really how we then thought about designing the property. And I think, you know, I spend a lot of hours of the week out of the house, so I leave early and get back late. And when I get in and at weekends, I don't really want to go out now, which I think can be frustrating for Natalie. It's just a very lovely space to spend time in, and it doesn't matter whether you're in on your own, it doesn't feel like a cavernous house. I think that was important in some respects because Natalie's in here a lot on her own during the day and with the dog, and the kids aren't going to be here forever, and we're hoping that we'll be here for a long time, and so we didn't want a place that felt enormous. And yet when we have had guests over, or we've had my mum's 70th party, the house accommodates them extremely well. So it's just become a great space for us to enjoy as a family.